Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Elite Real Estate Podcast. Again, on another wonderful Friday morning here. We are on KGCI Radio. We are live streaming on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and all the places you can pick us up at the Elite Real Estate Podcast. All those places are good. So you can find us in all those places. The cool part is I've got an in-studio guest today, which I'm very excited about. And anytime we get somebody in studio, it makes things a lot more interesting for me. Instead of staring at the screen with somebody looking at me on it, I can actually look at you in the face. It's good stuff. But yeah, Mr. Title, Keith Stonehouse is with us in the building today. My friend, how are you? Thanks for joining me.
Outstanding. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm glad. Here, we'll give you the applause there for the in-studio audience. Yeah. Oh man, well, yeah, man. I'm glad you were able to join me this morning and get in here and join and give us. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. One of the most interesting things that happen in a real estate transaction is the title.
Yeah, most interesting. That's right. Yeah.
It's kind of like the thing that's the most least talked about thing in the real estate transaction is the title. But the funniest thing is probably the most important thing. You know, outside of the money. Right, title is probably the next thing.
Yes, I talk about that all the time. Not too much because I don't want to bore people to death.
Right.
But I talk about the fact that the title insurance company is the nucleus of the transaction.
Yeah.
All the money funnels in. Every dollar from that transaction funnels in to the title company and out from the title company. So yes, we are very important in the transaction.
Yeah, and it's funny because then people are, it's even realtors don't even really know what title work is.
It's very true. I get, most people we're kind of a hidden in the back, kind of hermits hidden in a back room. So a lot of people forget, especially home buyers and settlers or investors or whatnot, that forget what we do and they question, why am I paying for this? What is it? When you explain it, then obviously the light bulb goes on and oh, I get it. That makes total sense. You're protecting me. You're protecting me against the various things that could come at me, like liens. The seller didn't handle the HOA dues, the water bills. There's Uncle Jim is on title because he helped us out 20 years ago and we quit claimed him on, but we don't get along with him anymore and he lives in California, or my father died, or whatever. Death certificates need to be put in place. So we handle all those things to make sure we're basically the legal factor of the whole transaction.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, you guys that are watching or listening later can tell how long Keith's been doing this, because you just gave us like 6 scenarios that you've heard.
Those are 6 out of 6,000.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But the one about Uncle Jim was on title, but he lives in California. That was a real thing.
That's happened probably 10 times.
Yeah.
Not all gyms.
Right. Well, not all of us are the same. Not all of us gyms are built the same. But no, so it is. Real estate agents, mortgage, probably just don't understand a lot about the title piece. It's nothing offensive, man, but it is the boring part of it.
100%. 100%. That's where I thrive, is I make it unboring.
Yeah.
To the public.
Yeah, and that is funny because I know a lot of title people, right? I was talking to some yesterday, and that's how they're built, right? It's kind of like that's the paperwork side of it.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the part. Again, it goes back. That's probably the most important piece.
Yes.
But it's the least exciting.
That's why everyone avoids it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Real estate agents and mortgage loan officers didn't get into the business for the boring aspect. They got into it for the freedom. They got into it for the excitement, the fun, whatever that may be. So they kind of ignore the title part of it.
Yeah.
And that's where we thrive.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the most important part of the transaction for most things. And the cool part is what you do such a good job of supporting agents. And you and your history of the Michigan Real Estate Masterminds.com, right? Is your support of agents is incredible, because you're always out there, like providing value, doing stuff for agents, the events that you host with the Michigan Real Estate Masterminds.com group, and how you do all that stuff. How did that, where did that idea come from for that group?
Well, it came from a couple different ideas or scenarios or reasons or strategies. And number one was, I was very involved 20 years ago, 15 years ago, in multiple real estate groups, real estate organizations, real estate boards, whatever that may be. And I just, over the years, sponsoring, being on committees, being involved, attending everything I possibly could, I started really noticing that there really is no business being transacted in these organizations. I mean, of course, there's things here and there and maybe a referral here and there, but the overall output wasn't really, let's do business together. Let's figure out how to get deals to the closing table. What, you have a deal that's pending, or you have a deal that's listed that you can't sell. How are we going to help you? Instead, it was a lot of fluff and puff and silly awards and pats on the back for no reason. And, you know, this fake pumping up of what, you know, and asking, you know, folks that are service providers for more money and more money and more money and more money to sponsor and whatever. And I said, you know, there's got to be a better way. So I created MichiganRealEstateMasterminds.com, and it started, honestly, it started at Einstein Bagels at 12 and Orchard Lake Road in Farmington.
Hilarious.
And it was a lunch, and there was 8 guys, and we sat there, and I said, you know what, why don't you it was all real estate agents, and I moderated it, and we put some tables together. And I said, guys, why don't you talk about any listings you have? Do you have any listings that are coming up next month or in the next couple months? Or, you know, some investment properties, vacant land, you have commercial properties. How about any buyers that you're working with? Do you have buyers that, you know, they just can't seem to find the right house or land or commercial building? And we went around the tables and we connected at that lunch 4 deals that went to the closing table. And I said, this is what I need to do. Yeah. This is the true value, not the fake nonsense, not the fluff and puff, not the begging for money for sponsorships, not any of this stuff. None of this stuff really makes you money and grows your business. And it evolved to 12 different cities, 12 locations that we got together with an average of 20 to 40 people at every lunch, a happy hour mixer 1 or 2 times a month, continuing education, motivational speakers that would come in randomly. We had events at the Detroit Athletic Club every year. We had a golf outing every year with 140 golfers, 144 golfers, and it just evolved. And that's where we're at today. And, you know, we meet in 5 cities now. Full transparency, it was too much. You know, I'm one guy, you know, to handle all this. And I had a stroke 8 years ago. Actually, a couple of days ago was my 8-year anniversary of my major stroke. I was in the hospital for 30 days, and God bless my wife for putting up with that. And my son was just born, and I had just put way too much on my shoulders. And I had a blood clot in the neck, and woke up for a real estate golf outing, cracked my neck, and the blood clot went straight to my brain. And I had to learn how to walk and talk again. And so I pulled that down to 6 and eventually 5 lunch locations that we meet at every month. And every single lunch, deals are getting transacted, deals are getting referred, deals are hitting the closing table from that luncheon. And on top of that, we have great keynote speakers like you, Jimmy, that come in and talk and motivate and inspire folks to get in the right mindset, because this real estate market is so up and down that your mindset can go up and down. And a lot of times the mindset is down when it should be up. And it's up, right? So we need a great motivator. We need a great transactional coach. We need a great mindset coach. We need a great social media coach, real estate attorneys to come and talk to us, tax attorneys. And that's what we provide at MichiganRealEstateMasterminds.com, to provide value for what is essentially my client base, real estate agents, real estate brokers.
Man, there's a lot there. That was good. It's such good information, right? And thank God for the stroke. You're good, right?
No, not thank God for the stroke, but
thank God that you're good. Yeah. Well, or was that like a sign, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
you know,
hey,
cats
you
have
need,
9 lives, right?
Yeah.
And that was the one. And God redirected me. I turned it around, and it recently happened 2 months ago, actually 71 days ago to be exact. Who's counting?
Yeah.
Where my blood pressure was so high, again, putting way too much on my plate. I'm just one guy.
Yeah.
And I do have an amazing team at Devon Title that handles all the back, but I'm one guy when it comes to everything else. And I put so much on that my blood pressure was literally at the level of death.
Yeah.
The ambulance drivers they didn't even know how to handle it. Their eyeballs were as big as saucers. And that was my moment that I knew right then that God had it all. When I was laying in that hospital bed at Henry Ford Macomb, I knew at that moment. And by the way, I was setting up for a Michigan Real Estate Masterminds lunch when it happened. I collapsed. I couldn't communicate. I couldn't move my hands. And my blood pressure was astronomically high. It was 230 over 141, and that's death.
Yeah.
And when I was laying in that hospital bed at that gurney, I felt God saying, I have been poking you and hinting for you to make changes. I've been showing you the way, and you've been ignoring me and choosing other paths. And this is the only way that you listen. So that was my second life, right? And I'm sure there's other ones when I was a kid racing BMX bikes.
Right.
But
well, we're Gen Xers, so there was a ton of those when we were kids.
Yeah.
We probably used up 6 or 7 lives when we were the teenagers.
Yeah, so I better watch it. We're getting close, right? So yeah, I've made that change over the last 2 months, even more dramatically than I did 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's part of, and I've talked about this at our last couple of mastermind events, right? Like, that's that mindset, because then we get so ingrained in like, we're just grinding.
Yes.
We're just grinding. But I said, that's what leads us to so much burnout in our industry, whether that's mortgage, title, real estate, like that leads us to burnout because we just can't do it anymore.
But you know what burnout, and let's be honest, burnout for most people looks like I'm switching careers. Right?
Yeah.
In this industry.
Yeah.
Burnout for most folks in this industry is, I can't make it. I'm going to go sell something else.
Yeah.
I'm going to go be a licensed something else. And they give up. And then a year later, they're at another company. Or even they just switch companies. Every year, switch. And that's a sign of burnout.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're doing all the wrong things. Right?
Yeah.
What's the definition of insanity? Right?
Yeah.
Doing the same thing
over and over again, expecting a different result.
Right. So that's a definition of burnout. My burnout, unfortunately, took me to stroke or a blood pressure breakdown. But there's different signs of burnout. You're right.
Yeah. And you know how many people I've talked to in our industries that have had these health things, right? That have had the heart attack, that have had the stroke, that have had, because they put so much on, and because they don't, it was one of the things, and I talked about this in Austin Chevron, a good friend of mine down in Indiana talks about this, like his run rest weeks, right? Because if you don't put these rest weeks in your schedule, and by rest week, what I mean, in Austin, make sure I'm clear on this, but like the rest week doesn't mean you don't work. The rest week means like you're not prospecting for business, right? You're cleaning up your CRM, you're doing all the things that kind of got astray, and you're leveling back out your life, right?
Yes.
You're cleaning out your calendar, you're scheduling everything for the next 3 weeks, and that's your rest week. But he goes, that saves you from the burnout of just constantly running. You know what I mean? Like just constantly run. If you take that 1 week and you straighten everything out, your calendar, you clean up your CRM, you do all the things you need to do and button everything up, the next 3 weeks you can run and not worry about that stuff.
That's a great point.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, you start thinking about these things, and again, as our health changes, because then what happens? We eat in our car, we're eating between appointments, which is McDonald's and a slice of pizza, right? Like it's terrible, right? But we in our hot dog from 7-Eleven, like all the things. These are all the things I've done, like on the way to a showing, right? Or on my way to a listing appointment, like I'm throwing a hot dog and some chips down.
You're begging for a heart attack.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But that's what we do, right? Because it's like I just got to get to the next thing.
Yeah.
And that's where health becomes a problem and all that stuff. But
it becomes secondary.
Yeah, everything becomes secondary because we're so focused on.
But here's the ironic thing about that. I've put in the last 71 days, I've put health above everything and mindset above everything. And my business has doubled.
Crazy, right?
Record-breaking April in my 25 years in title insurance.
Yeah.
Record-breaking April. And what drives me nuts is to talk to realtors or mortgage loan officers we're in the same market. And this is terrible. How are you doing it? I can't make it. I'm thinking about doing something different. And it's like, well, stop eating pizza all day.
Yeah.
And stop sleeping in and stop staying up and drinking till 12, 1 o'clock and get your mind right and focus on the things that are going to bring you business and whatever. But the health and the clarity is the main thing. But how do you get somebody to break that? Unfortunately for me, it took my situations to break that. But, my goal now is to be beyond the value of MichiganRealEstateMasterminds.com is to provide my prospects and my realtors, my clients with this life-changing experience of, that's why I'm posting all the time on social media. I'm not doing it to brag. I'm not doing it to say, look at me. I'm doing it like, you can do this too.
Yeah.
If this chubby white guy from the trailer park can do it,
yeah,
you can do it too. And that's kind of the motivation or inspiration is a lot of people just, they don't want to do it. Like I brought up before we started that situation with this family that we know that's extremely unhealthy. And every week they have to cancel what we have because they're so unhealthy and they're so sick every week. And it's like, because of what you're eating, and because you sit on your couch all day and watch Netflix, like move, get your blood flowing, drink water, flush out your system, get 10 to 20 to 30 minutes of some kind of walking exercise a day. And it just, you can't change people, but hopefully if they see that I'm doing it or that I did it, that, you know, I can inspire a few people to turn their lives around.
Yeah. And then what it becomes is because you do share this, right? And on your social media. And one of the things that starts to do too is it becomes some social accountability for you.
100%. Because
the people are like, hey, I didn't see you post your treadmill video today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, or your picture wasn't on your treadmill today. People will call you out for it.
They have.
Yeah. It's wild, isn't it? Like that social accountability piece. It's the person that's on the couch doing their scrolling.
No,
that's like, oh, I didn't see your treadmill picture today. It's like
still laying in bed.
Yeah. That's how it always seems to work out. But yeah, man, it's true. And in this industry, all of our industries, right? All of our industries are tied together with a little O at the end, because all of us have the same goal at the end.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, people have the same goal. It's to either get in or out of a house, right? It's with the smooth transaction, our fiduciary responsibility to take care of our clients. And at the end of the day, you, like I said, you do such a good job supporting agents. Like you said, the Michigan Real Estate Masterminds.com group. I mean, you know, I've had the pleasure of speaking at those luncheons, and we've got another one next week, right? Clarkston next week.
Wednesday,
Yeah. And so every month, where are you at with those every month? Like what are the locations for those? And like where like, I know because each one changes, but it doesn't change.
No, it doesn't.
But
change.
you change every week. Is a
yeah. So if you're you know interested in coming out, actually when I pulled up today, a mortgage loan officer said I need to join this, and I gave him all the information. I was glad to see he was up and focused, you know, in the morning. That was great. So that's a sign to me that he's a good fit for the organization. But Michigan Real Estate Masterminds is not just real estate agents. It's anybody who has anything to do with buying, selling, improving, insuring, financing, designing a home or a commercial property. And
at your luncheons too, there's photographers, there's home inspectors, there's the junk removals, there's the insurance people, you get them all, and it's great.
The goal is half real estate professionals and half service providers, and that's where the magic happens. But we meet the second Tuesday of every month at Knapp City Garage in downtown New Baltimore, right by the bay. It's always 12 to 1. Everyone always asks what time. It's lunch, 12 to 1. That's sponsored by Win Home Inspection. Shout out for Win Home Inspection New Baltimore. They handle the lunch, so thank you to Win Home Inspection. And the second Thursday of the month, we meet at Sherwood Brewing in Shelby Township, right there at Hayes, behind Keller Williams Lakeside. And then the third Wednesday of the month, we meet at the beautiful Hemingway Room in downtown Rochester, right behind Two LaRue, based on Ernest Hemingway. So there's all kinds of great quotes and pictures of Ernest in there. And then the fourth Wednesday of every month, we meet at Fifth Tavern in Clarkston. Used to be the Andiamo, directly off of I-75. And then the fourth Thursday of the month, we meet at Lucchino's in Troy, which is, again, right off of I-75, right on Crooks. What a gem that place is. That's our second lunch there. What an absolute gem. We've moved locations to that for moving forward. But what a gem that location is. We had a great turnout yesterday in the service and just the food and everything, the ambiance. That place is great. Yeah.
And I had the pleasure of doing the one at the Hemingway Room this past week. And I did take a picture of the wall because I'm going to pull up this quote again, which I thought was a fantastic quote. And the quote was, always do sober what you said you'd do drunk. That will teach you to keep your mouth shut.
Yeah. I'd like to reference that. I mentioned earlier when I posted this that I'm going to rattle some cages. If you are in this profession and you go to a real estate mixer or any industry mixer, any business mixer, business profession mixer, ease up on the drinking because you start making promises that you can't keep, or number two, that you don't remember that you made. So if you are a professional, if you consider yourself a professional, limit yourself on the drinks and stay professional, because I've witnessed this over my 25 years that folks start making promises and saying things, and then when you follow up with them a day or two or three or a week later, they have no clue what you're talking about.
Right.
That's not professional.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. Right. And so they go to, it's MREM.com.
Well, there's MichiganRealEstateMasterminds.com, or the same website is mymrem.com.
Got it. I'm going to put that up here right now. So everybody can see it.
Yeah, you can go on there and find all the events. You can find a lunch and learn that fits your schedule. You can join on there. There's all kinds of great things that you can do on there. It's a SEO directed website, so all the members have an individual bio on there with all their contact information, all the information about them, all the areas that they serve, and then it's SEO driven. So when people are searching for that industry or that realtor in that area, they pop up on those search engines.
Yeah. And then guys, I'm telling you, get out to those luncheons because they're great. One, two, like Keith alluded to, there's other realtors that I watch deals happen. People just start writing notes down too. Like, where was that again? You know what I mean? Like people, like, I think I have a buyer for you, or I think I have somebody for you, or hey, does anybody have anything in Sterling Heights? You're like, I got this one that's probably coming up. Where is it? And it's like, that fits my client. And you see them. Then again, the important part is the magic happens after.
Yes.
Because everybody writes it down,
Yes.
and then as soon as the thing gets up, and then you start seeing people break off into pairs.
Congregating.
Yeah. Like where was that again? And they start. That's the thing. And if you have a client that's looking in a specific area, right? And somebody mentions it, oh my gosh, now all of a sudden you have some options for your client.
Yeah. Or do you think they'd be willing to take 400? It's at 425. Do you think, whatever
Right.
the scenario
Whatever the scenario is.
We see an average of 3 to 5 deals at the closing table per lunch.
Yeah.
And that's where the magic happens. Now it's getting the horse to the water. The number one pushback that I get is, why would I network with other realtors?
Yeah.
Right?
Isn't that funny?
Well, it's not funny anymore. It's pathetic.
Yeah.
Right? It used to be funny. Now I've been in this so long. It's always the agents that don't really do much business.
Yeah.
That find any hashtag no excuses. That find excuses not to better themselves, not to push themselves, not to get out there. And this is a great way to get out there, make some great contacts. Yeah, I don't have time for that. Yeah, I don't want to drive over there. No, I don't want to network with other realtors. No, stop. Get out of your comfort zone, show up, and every time they're like, wow, this is great. I didn't think this was going to be this or this or this. And 10 out of 10 times, 100% of the time, they're like, wow, this is way different than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, just show up. That's 50% of anything in this world, in this life, that you do, is showing up first, right? When people say, I don't have time to go to the gym. Yeah, you do. Wake up earlier.
Yeah.
I don't have time to do that. Yeah, you do. Wake up earlier. I don't have wake up earlier, go to bed earlier, stay up later. You don't need as much sleep as you thought you did. Yes, there are enough hours in the day. Stop with the excuses, right?
Yeah.
Everyone has an excuse not to succeed.
Yeah. And we get caught, like all of us get caught up into this trap of also social media, right? The social media trap, where we're always comparing ourselves to everybody out there, right? And we're saying, well, this person did this and this person, and I want to, so it's this imposter syndrome that we have. And then the second thing is we waste time on there. We've all done this too. Like just you go on there to post something or to do something.
The rabbit hole.
And now you're down looking at cat videos and people falling down, right? Like, and it's like, shoot, that was just 2 hours. 2 hours, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can do in 2 hours.
And then you say, I don't have time.
Yes. I don't have time to walk outside.
Yeah.
Well, you spent 2 hours on the phone, like just not even doing anything.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where the difference starts to come, where people think they're busy.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. The motion.
Well, yeah. It's like, well, are you busy or are you just distracted? Right. Like, because there's a difference. And so agents and I think everybody in our industries get caught up in that. Well, I'm so busy.
That's fine.
And it's like, well, what did you actually accomplish today?
Correct. That's my biggest pet peeve in this industry is the word busy.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I'll tell them, I'll show you my calendar right now. You want to see what busy looks like? Mm-hmm. It's all color coded. Every minute is accounted for from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. or whatever the time frame is. It's all broken down. And like, no, that's not your day. Yeah, what does your day look like? Oh, I don't want to talk about it.
I don't have one.
Right. You're just floating through your day, making up stuff to do.
Yeah.
Right. What time are you trying to get business? What time are you meeting with people? What time are you doing one-to-ones? What time are you networking? What time are you focusing on time blocking for social media, cleaning up your CRM, whatever. And it's this glazed over look, but you talk to the top producers and they're all the most structured, boring daily routines that you've ever seen. And then they have the free time to do whatever they want because they've gotten all that out of the way.
Yeah.
Instead of just making up nonsense throughout the day and saying that they're busy.
Yep. And then that's when the social media stuff comes in and people go, oh, it must be nice to just be able to go out, be on your boat today.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I did all day to be able to be on my boat today?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you know what I've done?
I don't even humor that.
You know what I mean? Like, but
I just laugh and go, yeah.
And that's why I always say when people say it must be nice, I'm like, yeah, it is, but you know what it took to get to this point, right? Like, and you've been in title for 25 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how did you go, you know, I'm going to start doing title work.
I didn't say that, but you said that. I didn't say
like you just woke up one day and you're like, title.
Well, I actually, no, I fell into it.
Yeah. And it's funny, and I'm gonna let you go on that in a second, but like that, I talked to the realtors and I was like, did you grow up wanting to be a real estate agent? Nobody did. It's like, well, I kind
Unless their parent was a realtor and they saw the freedom in the lifestyle.
Yeah, but it's very rare.
No, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
No, I was actually, I went to school for business management. I was assistant manager of a large store and they wanted to promote me. And I was going to be the youngest assistant store manager in Michigan history. And at the age of 21. And I said, you know, I was extremely excited because this is my goal. And you know, I was overwhelmed. And I asked the guy who was taking his place and he had looked defeated. I mean, this guy looked defeated in life. And we sat in the break room and I pulled him aside. I said, man, what do I got to look forward to? You know, I'm so excited. And he said, all right, do you want my version or do you want their version? I said, I guess I want your version. He said, okay, you work 8 to 4 Monday through Friday, right? I said, yeah. He said, you don't work weekends? Said, nope. He goes, you don't work holidays, do you? I said, nope. He said, you're never on a call? Nope. And if you work an hour over, you get overtime, right? I said, yeah. He goes, well, you're getting promoted to big boy management now, son. I said, oh, okay. What does that mean? He goes, I work about 65 hours paid for a 40-hour salary. My job is always on the line. I'm working weekends. I'm working holidays. My relationships are terrible. He goes, and I make a little bit more than you. I said, what? You're like 40 years old.
Yeah.
I'm 21. He goes, I know. I said, why would you do this? He goes, good question. This is all I've ever known. So I was dating somebody that worked at a giant, very large title insurance company. I take her out to lunch from time to time. And she said, well, obviously you're not going to pursue that. Why don't you come work here? I said, I don't even know what title insurance is.
Right.
I don't know what mortgages are. I don't know any of this stuff. When I pick you up for lunch, it looks like robots and cubicles. I said, I got to move around. I can't do that. So I took the job and I started working at this type of company as a robot in a cubicle. They're not all robots, but I was doing recording, and in 6 months they promoted me to the head of the recording for all 50 states, and I had 5 ladies under me that were like my mom's age at the time. So that did not go over well.
Yeah.
You know, they were there 7 years, 13 years, 10 years, 12 years. That did not go over well for them. So my life was hell for the next 6 months. And I saw this guy, Jeff, and Jeff was rarely ever in the office. And when he was, I had to wear a suit and tie every day, by the way, for this job. He was in a polo shirt.
To not see anybody.
Correct. 0 people. Yeah. Jeff was rarely ever in the office. And when he was in a polo shirt, sometimes in shorts. He was in slacks, sometimes in jeans, always on a cell phone. And 25 years ago, being on a cell phone was cool.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if you're on it all the time, especially to a 21-year-old, so a 22-year-old. So he had his corner office. He was probably 35, I would guess. I watched him out of the office windows. And all the time. And finally I said, Jeff, what do you do? Like, what is your role here? And he says, oh, I'm the head sales guy. I said, oh. So he broke down his day. He broke down what he does. He broke down who he talks to. He broke down his routine. And I immediately knew that's it. That's what I want to do. I want that freedom. This guy's always happy. This guy's always I don't want to say life of the party, but as soon as he walked in, everyone in the office was happier. I said, that's who I want to be.
Yeah.
So I went to my boss and I said, I want to do what Jeff does. And she said, no, I just promoted you. You're really good at what you do. You got the whole department reorganized and functioning. go back to your office. So I did with a box, and I cleaned out my desk, and I said, I quit. And she said, you can't just quit. I said, if you're not going to put me in a sales position, I'm out. So I left and I quit, and I drove to downtown Rochester. There used to be a Starbucks where there's a Bean and Leaf now. I opened up the classifieds, and for some of you watching or listening, classifieds are something that's within a newspaper in print words that
It was
you can find a job.
it was Indeed, but it was printed in the newspaper.
Yes. And by God's glory, I found a title insurance company in downtown Farmington, manufacturer's title, that was hiring sales reps. And I called, I got the job the next day, and I was the worst salesperson for many months. And then went to another title company, and again, terrible. Nobody trained me. I just went to real estate offices and dropped off trinkets and donuts and bagels. And finally, I got a mentor, which I tell everyone, you need a mentor, you need a coach, you need a guidance counselor, whatever that may be. You need somebody to hold your hand and teach you that's been there. Not somebody who's mediocre, not somebody who's just getting by, but you need somebody who's crushed it, who's figured out new strategies, who's figured out a way, and ask, even if you got to pay him. I mean, actually, you probably should pay him. Yeah. But I'm saying, when I started, this guy, he just took me under his wing. He was an older gentleman. He took me under his wing. But you should absolutely have a coach. You should absolutely have somebody that's pushing you, because most of us can't do it on our own. And we're not going to do it on our own. And we pretend like we're going to do it, and then we fade off within a week or 2 weeks, just like your New Year's resolutions. So I started kicking butt out of nowhere because of everything that this guy had taught me and trained me about relationships, about networking, about finding the value of what my prospects and my clients really want, not what I think they want. And the key word is consistency, being consistent. You know, if you're going to do something, do it every day. If you're going to do it every week. If you're going to do it every month, whether that's follow-ups, whether that's marketing, branding, whether that's asking for the business. Be consistent with it until it's boring and monotonous, and then figure out a new way, because now you're in the comfort zone. And then in 2004, we started Franklin Title with 2 business partners. We bought out the one, and we moved forward to 5 locations in 5 years. That was my goal. 5 locations in 5 years, and we did that. And we did that for 17 years, and that was my baby. You know, we had downtown Rochester, we had Rochester Hills, which we flipped the script there, but we had downtown Northville, Flint, Farmington, and Southfield. And about 4 years ago in August, it'll be 4 years, Devon Title, my business partner, wanted to retire, and I had merged with Devon Title because I had worked with Devon Title for so many years. I had 1 underwriter, Devon Title had 4 underwriters. I had no attorneys on staff. Devon has 4 attorneys on staff. They do tons of commercial, probably 50% of the business out of Devon is commercial. I did 0 commercial. So I was referring business to them and working back and forth with Devon for a few years. So it was just a nice transition. And that's when I became Devon Title.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually a great story. And one of the things that has always stood out to me about you was 5 years ago when COVID happened, and watching you on social media. And like you changed with when COVID happened and we shut everything down and whatever else. Franklin was at a bank, right? They were in an old bank.
No, we actually, a lot of people thought that we were at and I'm very proud of this, at a 6,000 square foot historical house that was across the street from Rochester Mills Brewery, built in 1871. And that was actually where some of the women worked at the knitting mill.
Okay.
And that was their dormitory, their house. And when we bought it, it was a vacant office building, so to say. It was a 4-unit office building that a developer had changed. And we bought it, gutted it, turned it into obviously a 1-unit. But we were blessed with the fact that we had our own parking lot. A lot of folks in downtown Rochester don't,
right,
shared or city parking. We had our own parking lot, which was completely sufficient enough for our staff and for folks coming in for closings. And the back of the building was a garage, which we, used for storage, used for document storage. It was very secure, but it had 2 windows that slid open, and we had just enough space to make it our drive-through closing.
Yeah.
And we had it all approved through the powers that be to do drive-through closing. So people would pull up, and some days we had lines of cars. Obviously based on schedules, but we had lines of cars, and our closers would stand at the window and close, and they had masks, and we provide masks, and we had gloves, and we had to go through the whole rigmarole.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that much how cool that was, like watching that happen on social media from my standpoint as a realtor, like, and then it was like drive-through closings. I'm like, it was a genius move. Like,
well, I appreciate that, but it was definitely, we were blessed with that because the way the building was designed with the parking lot. But yeah, we thought, wait a minute, we have this access.
Yeah.
Let's utilize it.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt bad for the other title companies.
You didn't.
I did.
But yeah, like, and again, like that, and how things have changed over the 25 years, man. Like, even to go to something like COVID, and now we're doing drive-through closings, and now we're doing closings on Zooms.
Yeah, I do. We've probably done 7,000 virtual closings in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
That are, when people say virtual, they think I mean send a notary to somebody's house or place of business, but it's actually like a Zoom meeting. We have 2 or 3 different software systems that we utilize that they can close. If they're in Spain, they can close on their smartphone, on their laptop. If they're in Grand Rapids and they don't want to drive, we do have offices in that area, but if they don't want to drive to a closing, even if they're sick or they're bored or they're tired or too busy, my favorite, right? Or they're out of country, out of state, they're on vacation, took longer, or they're an investor. We do tons of closings with investors that are in California or Australia or China that obviously they're not going to fly in for a deal or a few deals. So we just send them the link and they close, and we have, the remote online notary in one window of the deal and the buyer seller in another window, and the documents are right in the middle, and it goes through and we get it closed that way.
Yeah. And it's incredible because, like, again, you think of the efficiency piece of it too, right? Yeah. And you do have a lot of out-of-state investors, a lot of country investors, especially here locally. People are always investing in Michigan and the Detroit area.
Correct.
Right. And from that don't live here. So it's like that efficiency, like you said, nobody's going to fly in and buy $100,000 house.
Well, the other option is, and people always say, well, we just mail them out. We mail out, overnight mail, and then we have a return envelope, already stamped to do it. I say, yeah, that's fine. But how many times are we going to run into a notary notarizing it wrong, or printing a document that, was a mistake, and then they reprint it on the wrong paper that can't be recorded, or they forget to overnight it back, or they overnighted it, too late, and it doesn't fall in the criteria of the transaction. So to avoid all of that, these are an absolute gem.
Yeah. Yeah. Lisa LaRue just said, good morning. The key to success is consistency.
Consistency is the key to all success. Yes.
But yeah, so that that's where the game has changed too, right? Because now we're talking about, we go back to like client service, right? Like what other, okay, I have to have title work done. Great. There's a billion title companies.
Yes.
Right. Like, but why would I,
Just
it's like
within a block of you.
Right. Like
yes.
right here.
Yes.
Like in the 1 mile radius, there's a billion title companies. Yes. Everybody owns a title company. They're easy to run. Yeah. They're easy to run.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. There's no concern about legalities.
There's no liability.
Yeah. Nothing to worry about.
No.
Yeah. Don't get me started. I've got something going on right now that I'm just like, anyway, not with Devon. Devon's been a dream to work with.
Yes, thank you.
But yeah, so like that's the key, right? So where do you see this going? Like with the changes that we've got going on in our industry and how important title is, like where do you see, like what's the next thing with title? Like what's going to happen with that?
Well, I'll say, and a lot of people have been asking me this in the last few years, especially after COVID, and I'll say kind of what my dad said to me when I was a kid. My dad was a much older father, raising me. And my dad said to me, Keith, by the year 2000, there's going to be flying cars. I saw it in Popular
Mechanics. I know there's not, and it makes me mad. I want a flying car.
But he was guaranteeing it.
Yeah.
Because he saw it in Popular Mechanics years and years before that.
Do you watch the Jetsons too?
Right?
Yeah.
And the Jetsons. So we live in this world that we think everything is going to change in the next couple of years, but you're not going to see major change. I mean, this electronic closings that we're doing now is the big change. And the reason that I say we're not going to have this huge change that you think, or that people see, these fake AI people talking about on social media, is it takes so long to release all the technology that's already created because they're trying to make the most money out of each piece of technology. So the same thing with anything is that they're trying to piecemeal each piece of technology out to make to bleed out the most money they can out of it. So it's not an overnight thing. The technology that we're seeing now with ROM closings, remote online notarizations, is where it's at now. And the reason I say that is majority of title insurance companies are not adopting this, and there's a couple reasons why. And then the main reason is cost. It's the software is very expensive.
Yeah.
And they're not willing to take that on. Number two, they don't think, and they're kind of archaic in how they operate, and they're not willing to jump in because they don't think it's gonna happen. It's happening. We do a ton of these closings, and once a real estate agent or an investor or a mortgage company or broker sees and their clients love it, they adapt to it and they change to that. So we're very blessed with that. But to say there's going to be some major change, obviously blockchain, they're working on blockchain and making it a little easier to pull title and to get the information from counties and states and cities and townships and villages, but which would be great for northern properties because you got Aunt Becky that works there on Tuesdays between 3 and 5.
Oh man. And like I've done deals in Florida at the HOAs and trying to get a hold of an HOA at some retirement community in Florida because it's Susie who works there on Wednesdays from 3 to 5 if it's not pinochle night. And then it's like, can I get the information please? Like you don't have anybody that works full time?
No, it doesn't exist.
It doesn't.
If you go up north to majority, you get a property, let's say you, for example, you don't focus on northern properties, whether it's UP or 3 hours north. There's areas that literally in their county or in their city, they don't have a full-time person.
Right.
It's Aunt Becky that works there on Tuesdays between 3 and 5.
Yeah.
And then people are yelling at us, why didn't you get the information? Well, we only had this.
It's Wednesday night. She works on Tuesday.
Right. We gotta wait now, And so it takes longer. So if we could get through that, and I think that's where the blockchain, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole blockchain, but if once that starts progressively happening as we move along, then that will open up a little more freedom to pull the information, which isn't a good thing for us for the most part. But people have been talking about that I've been in this 25 years. People have been talking about it for 15 years and it hasn't happened. So we'll see.
Well, I think part of it, what people have to understand is too, right? From a transparency standpoint and a legality standpoint, and again, the risk that you're taking to do title, right? The RON closings are fantastic, but it took a while for the technology to get there. One,
yes,
because they have to make sure nobody can mess with it. Right. Like they got
the security has to be
exactly
tested over and over and over in every scenario thrown at it. Like crash test dummies, the commercials in the 80s with the cars smashing against the walls.
Yeah, because as much as we don't want to admit it about our human friends, like there's a scam everywhere. And it's like, well, how can I? So all these things that we say are progressing very quickly aren't progressing as quickly because they have to figure out the security of it.
Yes.
It can't be like,
that's a great
willy-nilly just kind of do it, right? It has to be secure.
And if you look, that's a great point. If you look at some of the major title insurance underwriters that have been hacked and really kind of, I won't say ruined their business, but really threw them for a loop.
Yeah.
We have never been hacked, by the way, or an underwriter. But it is astronomical the damage that was done to those companies, so they know now that's their eye-opening experience that they have to step up their game. We have spent more money and time on security than any other title company that I've ever been a part of or seen. I've only been a part of 2, but
right.
that I've ever seen or witnessed. And that's why I feel so confident with these closings.
Yeah, and it is. It's very cool. It's very cool for your client, but again, it has to be secure.
Yes.
And the other thing about Devon is very cool is all the continuing ed that you guys provide too.
Yeah.
And I've pushed my team out to it. Like I'm like, guys, and I put it in our chats and share it with everybody. I'm like, your Canva, your LinkedIn, your social media stuff, like all the things that you guys do, and it's for agents.
Well, you brought the thing up in the beginning of that. My goal is to provide value to my prospects and my clients. I never want to be a title insurance company or a title insurance individual or person that is saying, hey, Frank, I want your next deal. Can you just send me your next deal? Can I have your next deal? Can I have your next deal? And not provide value either before that, during that, or after that. And the whole goal is, if I provide you value, can I have your next deal? Right. So we started this last year, and because 50+% of my business comes from social media.
Sure.
And I say that, again, not to brag, I say that just like with the health and fitness, I'm trying to inspire people. I'm trying to educate people that social media is a great tool. If I'm a title insurance company, nobody knows what title is. Nobody cares what title is. Nobody understands title. We're hermits hidden in the back room. If I'm getting 50+% of my new business generated from social media, imagine what the face of the transaction could get from social media if they do it consistently, properly, and with the right message, realtors, mortgage loan officers. And so we sent out a survey to 1,000 realtors last year asking if we could provide anything, name it, anything, what would be the biggest thing that we could provide value with? And they said social media support, marketing, branding. So I said, let's do it. So we hired Kristen Nitz, and she's our business strategist. She does our marketing, she does our branding, she does our social media, on top of what I do. And she teaches these state licensed Con Ed classes. One is Canva 101, one is Canva 201, another one is Chat GPT or AI for realtors. The other one is LinkedIn for realtors, and the other one is social media presence for realtors. And then we can do social audits for realtors, which is my favorite. So you break down social media for each individual, and we do them all virtually. So you can do it from your bathtub. You could do them from your bed. You could do them from.
But turn your camera off.
Please. You could do them from anywhere. And it's 1 hour of Con Ed. You give your state license number at the end. We submit it to the state. And I've done a ton of them for real estate offices where I come in, I hook up to their TV, HDMI, and she does the class. I moderate it, bring in lunch or dinner or whatever, the snacks. We've done a ton of those, but most of them are individual. You block off an hour and jump on your phone or your iPad or your laptop and do it that way. But we probably do about 6 to 10 a day for realtors. So if that's something that somebody's interested in, please let me know, because that's been a great hit, a great value. And my goal is to provide value to help inspire real estate agents how to properly get business from social media, and go to your social media profiles right now and make sure that all your contact information is blaring in front of people. Make sure that your real estate company is blaring, that everything's clickable and linkable. Make sure that your bio has what you do for a living, not cat mom, right? On there, right? And don't talk about what's going on in politics. Don't talk about what's going on in the world. Not saying that nobody cares, but you're going to attract the wrong people, right? And obviously focus on positivity, but be consistent with it. And we help focus on that. We help train that. And Canva is a great tool for all kinds of different things that people don't even realize. And when we're done with these classes, they're like, I had no idea that I could do all of these amazing things for free with Canva. And then we have farming tools where we can help if somebody's trying to market to a subdivision or a demographic or an area. We can provide a database of all of that contact information for those folks, for them to reach out to them. Went down a rabbit hole, but
that's the good spot, right? And it's interesting. The social media, the checkup, like what are you finding with agents? Like when you do
you want me to be honest?
Yeah.
Oh, honesty. Okay.
Yeah.
Transparency. Okay.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Horrific.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrific. 95% of agents that are social media, even though they think that it's great and they're posting, but their profiles do not provide anything about them. So if you go on there, and this is what I say every day to realtors, guys, if your contact information isn't on there, if they don't know what company you're with, if you don't have a professional photo, if your bio doesn't say what you do and how passionate and your why of what you're doing, people will go to the next one, because human beings have a 6-second attention span where goldfish have a 7-second attention span. So you will lose so many home buyers and sellers that went to your profile, said, I don't know, whatever this is, and go to the next one that is blatantly obvious to click on or call or email, whatever communication that they prefer. And you have no idea how much business you just lost out on.
Right.
So I want people to do a self-audit, to go onto their social media, their LinkedIn, their Instagram, their Facebook professional page, their TikToks, and make sure that all their information is screaming at people and why it's screaming at people, why they're passionate about what they do, and do that right now. Don't wait for
don't wait
for our audit, because you have no idea how much business you're missing out on. Because I hear it all the time. People say, hey, somebody referred me to this agent. I went on, I thought they just owned a bunch of cats. And then they go to the next person that somebody referred, and they click on their thing, and then that
says realtor.
Yeah. They click on it and they call them and they list with them.
Yeah.
Right? So people, that's the scariest thing, is you have no idea how much business that you're missing out on by not putting, and then you get, of course, the people with the excuses. Well, I don't want people calling me and selling me stuff. Okay, well, that may happen from time to time, but you're missing out on $50,000, $100,000 a year.
You're a realtor. Answer your phone.
Oh, you think?
Sorry, I had to get that one out.
Yeah, that's very few and far between. Yeah, but I'm not going to go down that road.
Yeah, let's not go down that way. Yeah. I started something. I don't want to do that.
I'm just trying to get the fact that we can help with the social media to provide that value to help you grow your business. And guess what happens if they grow their business? It grows our business.
Right.
So our goal is to help provide that value, and especially with social media, because that was the number one answer on that survey was, we need help and support with social media. How do we get business out of this?
Sure.
So that's what we're doing.
Yeah. No, and it's, again, it's all that support. And again, I'm a big preacher of value, right? What value, if I'm a realtor, outside of being able to open a lockbox, what's the value you provide, right? Because we can all, if we're a licensed realtor, we can all open a lockbox, right? It's not very hard. But what value we're providing? And again, it goes back to title too. Like Devon is providing this value to agents, and without doing anything else, right? Like that's just the value. Right. That's just the value that's there. And again, I'm going to do the social media audit just because I'm interested to see, because I think it's good, but I want to see if it's good.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like I want to make sure it's good. So I'm going to double check, and I'm going to go through the social media audit just because I want to see. Because here's the thing, there's people that put a lot of time and effort into it, and it's probably wrong.
And they're not getting anything.
They're not getting it out of it. They're like, man, I've been doing, but I post stuff and I do this and I do that. And it's like, yeah, but it does say cat mom, right? Not that there's anything wrong with
and there's a picture of
I'm a dog
you laying, with your injected lips laying in a beach chair.
Yeah.
Trying to look sexy.
What are you doing? I got to take that one down, huh?
Well, I told you that before. But yeah, that's another thing, is how you perceive yourself is what you're going to get,
100%.
right? What you put out there is what you're going to get back. So you have to expect that. So do the audit yourself and look at it and say, okay, how am I putting myself out here? If I want to look like this, that's what I'm going to get back or not get back, right? So that's what Kristen goes through with that social audit, and I'll sit in on some of them, and it's mind-boggling. There's normally, if you're going to break it down, there's normally two scenarios. One is the one that has no clue, and that's fine, right? And they're there like, please help. I don't know, and that's great.
Yes,
I love that.
That's even better,
right? And then you have the other one that thinks they're rock stars and that they're, everything is perfect.
Yeah,
and then Kristen has to say, actually, how much business are you getting out of this?
Yeah.
Because you don't have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but you have, a picture of your fake Bentley, that somebody else's Bentley that you're standing in front of, that you think people are going to think you're rich, right? Okay, don't do that. Right? Yeah. You want people that gravitate to you because you're genuine and natural.
Yeah.
So
that's one of the things I always say too. I'm because I've talked a lot about social media and content and what you're putting out. And I always say, just be cautious of what you're putting out, because that's what you're going to attract.
Yes, that's what I mean.
You know what I mean? Like I've seen different people speak on this. And everybody says the same thing. Be cautious of what you're putting out, because that's what you're going to attract, right? Yeah. Like I always say, I'm not a 3-piece suit guy, right? So you're not going to see me on my social media like in a 3-piece suit with a tie, because that's the people I'm going to attract. Not that I don't want to attract those people,
correct,
right? But again, and we've talked about this on my show before, and it's not every client is mine.
Yes.
Nor should they be.
Yes.
Right? Because I'm not going to get along with everyone. And I feel like I get along with a lot of people, but there's certain people that I don't want to work with. So if I'm not cautious about what I'm putting out, I'm going to attract those people.
But the beauty of what you're saying, and I could go on for hours based on what you're saying. I have a funny story on that. the beauty of that is that once you get to a certain point of your career, you can make those choices of who you want.
Sure.
Some folks that are in their first 3 years don't really have that option, right?
Right.
They got to work with whoever, the jerk, the nice guy, the poor, or not the poor, but the one that can't afford much, the zillionaire, whatever. They got to work with everyone. So funny story, years ago, I was running out of the house frantic, and you know how if you're late for the first appointment, you're late for all of them, right?
Yep.
So it's a domino effect. So I'm running out of the house, and my wife's standing there in the kitchen, running down the hall to the garage. And I said, I gotta go, kiss you goodbye, I love you. And if she's watching or listening, I don't know if she remembers this, but it sticks with me forever. And I said, I gotta go, I'm running. And she's trying to tell me about something for later today or the weekend or something. And I'm kind of blowing it off because I gotta go. If I'm late to this, I'm late to everything. And I had probably 8, 9 appointments that day. And she kind of said to me in a derogatory way, she said, oh, you mean go hang out with your friends all day? And I ran out and I kind of let it slide. I get in the car, I back out of the garage, I leave the driveway, and it hits me. I went, that was a terrible thing to say. That was rude, and I was kind of upset. So I'm driving down the road, and about a mile later, it hits me. And I went, oh my God, she's right. I lived the dream.
Yeah.
And it all of it started coming in like vision. I was like, all my clients are my friends. They stood up at our wedding.
Yeah.
Like I stood up in theirs. We hang out. We have summer parties. They go out on the boat. Like, yes.
Yeah.
And then that comment, which meant something else, really, it's all about perception. It's all about how you perceive things and all about the mindset and how you think about things. I was able to shift that and realize the reality of that was actually a really good thing.
Yeah.
And now if you don't fit into that category, if you talk to Tina, who handles all my stuff, if you're not good to her, you're gone.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't fall into who I want to work with, and if you're not willing to grow your business, and you're not open and you're full of excuses, I don't want to work with you.
Right.
Right? Yeah, but Keith, you need more title orders. Yes, I do. But I want to do it the way I want to do it. And I want to help make sure that Tina and Angela from my team, that they're happy. That's number one. Right? And I think that's the problem that we all suffer, is that anybody that breathes, I see it in real estate events that I'm at.
Oh yeah.
They're real estate agents are the most distracted people ever. Somebody sends them a text, they run out of the room. Somebody calls, they run out of the room in the middle of something that they could get so much out of.
Yeah.
But nope, somebody called me. What happened to that call? Oh,
that goes back to sort of being the busy thing, right?
Yes.
Like, I gotta go take this call. Like,
no, you don't.
You don't have to go take it right now.
No, go take it when this is over.
Right. But we did just tell agents to answer their phone.
Sorry about that. You said that, by the way.
I did. But yeah, so there is all these things, right? And again, now this comes back to what you just said about I get to hang out with my friends. Again, it's who you surround yourself with matters.
Yes.
Right? Who you surround yourself with matters. And if you're not around the right people, again, we go back to mindset and all these things. And if you're around people that are dragging you down, they'll drag you down.
And here's the thing. I don't mean to interrupt.
No.
Most people don't realize the people around them are dragging them down. That's the key. When you say dragging down, when you say dragging down, people think directly dragging them down. But dragging down is so broad.
Yes.
Right?
It is. The other part about that is the crabs in the bucket story. We only got about 2 minutes left, but the crabs in the bucket. There was a fisherman throwing these crabs in the bucket. And the younger guy next to him said, hey, you better watch it. They're starting to crawl out. And the old man looked in the bucket and he goes, no, they won't. They'll be fine. And the young kid was like, what? No, they're crawling out. He goes, watch. And everyone was pulling the other one down because they were all trying to get out. But and meaning of trying to get out, they were all pulling each other back down.
Yep.
And they don't know it. They're all trying to
That's
just
what I
crawl
mean.
out, but they're just pulling each other down.
Yes.
So it's the old crabs in the bucket story.
That's a great story.
Well, we got about 1 minute left. Where can everybody find you? Where can we see Mr. Title and on your socials or whatever else?
Well, obviously Keith Stonehouse on all the different social media platforms. Come and join us at a Michigan Real Estate Masterminds lunch or Mixer or Con Ed or Devon Title Con Ed. Send me an email, kstonehouse@devontitle.com. And if you want, to sign up for a Con Ed social media, even if you don't need the credits, a lot of agents don't even need the credits, but they want these classes, right?
Yeah.
So we want to provide that value. And if you want to come to a lunch, please feel free. Everyone's invited. There is no, you have to fall into a certain category or production level or anything like that. Open your damn mind and come and join us for a lunch that fits your schedule. And you can email me at michiganrealestatemasterminds@gmail.com. Again, thank you, Jimmy, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, brother. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for coming in. And again, providing value as always. So I thank you for that, my friend. Guys, listen, find the Elite Real Estate Podcast wherever you find podcasts. We are live every Friday at 7:30 a.m. Different guests trying to bring some value to you guys and go from there. So KGCI Radio, thank you very much. Twitter, Twitch, everybody else, thank you. We'll be back next week, Friday, 7:30 a.m. See you all next week.